Welcome to AC 24/7's Top Story Countdown. I'm Aaron Dean. Right now, I'm here to guide you through the biggest stories of the day. Here's our pick for number 4.
A German-made Leopard 2 tank hitting Russian positions on the Eastern Front. This video provided by the 21st Mechanized Brigade showing, they say, how effective Western weapons are on the battlefield.
Every infantry is scared of a tank. Tanks go out and work and they fire frightfully. They fire straight into their faces and they don't even have time to think about what to do.
The Ukrainians say they need a lot more Western arms and ammo, but Republicans have blocked U.S. military aid in Congress, and their likely nominee for president, Donald Trump, even suggested he might encourage Russia to attack NATO members who didn't meet military spending guidelines.
I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay.
Those comments literally have Europeans up in arms, now ramping up weapons production for Ukraine and for themselves. Germany's chancellor visiting a major arms plant with Denmark's prime minister, trying to downplay Trump's comments.
NATO is of essence for the United States, for Canada, for the European countries, and we cooperated so long since World War II, and this is really something which is a good alliance for the future. We stick to it, the President of the United States sticks to it, and I'm sure the American people will do so.
But Denmark's prime minister says she has no illusions. U.S. support for European NATO members no longer seems certain.
No matter what will happen in the US in this year, I think the conclusion has to be written already now that Europe needs to be stronger, and we need to be able to do more on our own.
And ammo production is the biggest concern as NATO allies struggle to help Ukraine make up for massive shortfalls while facing overwhelming Russian firepower.
This is one of the most important things for the Ukrainians to stay in the fight. They're not only outmanned, they're also outgunned. And the biggest problem they have is a lack of ammunition.
They broke ground for a new ammo plant here, and the company's CEO says they will drastically increase ammo production quickly, especially for artillery.
They need 1 million to 1.2 million, and if I give them 700,000, I think there are also some other producers in Europe who have to give them something. So 700,000 is at the moment the maximum that we can produce.
And the Ukrainians say they need the maximum their allies can give, with or without the U.S., to keep their forces in the fight against the Russians.
The Advocate Channel looks at the world through the lens of equality, community, hope, and inclusion. AC 24/7's Top Story Countdown continues with our producer's pick for number 3.
It's a disorder of the brain. Generally, people are diagnosed with epilepsy when they've had 2 or more unprovoked seizures, but not all seizures look alike.
The big misconception here is that epilepsy is only convulsive seizures.
Dr. Imad Najm, director of the Epilepsy Center at Cleveland Clinic, says the first thing to know about epilepsy is that seizures aren't always associated with muscle jerks or spasms. Other signs could be a staring spell, temporary confusion, stiff muscles, chewing movements with the mouth, or picking movements with the hands. Second, Najm says many times epilepsy can be controlled.
Maybe 2/3 of the patients, if the seizures are identified as part of the diagnosis of epilepsy, and medical help and appropriate medical help is provided.
Third, Najm says anti-seizure medication can help, and the goal is for complete seizure control. Next, he says depression and anxiety are common in those living with epilepsy. Loved ones should watch out for signs. And finally, seizures can be related to genetics or from a brain injury, but the cause is often unknown, and epilepsy needs to be diagnosed and treated.
There is a very good chance that these seizures will become under good control and the person will be able to live their life like everyone else.
For Health Minute, I'm Andy Gaither.
The Advocate Channel is now streaming live on Amazon Prime in the News app. Watch us there or go to theadvocatechannel.com. AC 24/7 continues with today's top 2 pick.
For the second time in less than 2 months, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is back in the hospital. only this time the public and the president know about it. Austin has transferred his duties to his deputy, and the Pentagon says before he left for the hospital on Sunday, the president and Congress were notified. Austin was admitted at Walter Reed Medical Center for symptoms suggesting an emergent bladder issue. The hospital says today he was put under general anesthesia for non-surgical procedures. The Pentagon says that he'll remain in the ICU at Walter Reed for the remainder of his stay for privacy. And the Pentagon spokesman relayed a statement from Austin's doctors regarding his broader battle with prostate cancer.
Current bladder issue is not expected to change his anticipated full recovery. His cancer prognosis remains excellent.
And the White House says President Biden has no concerns over whether Austin can continue serving. But Austin did have to cancel an important trip to Brussels this week for meetings with NATO leaders on Ukraine. The Pentagon says he'll participate virtually, but analysts say his physical absence will be notable.
We are now in the midst of the war in Ukraine, where NATO countries are playing a very important role helping Ukraine survive this. And we need to get this right, and we need to be engaged.
Austin's absence is even more noticeable at a time when the U.S. is launching airstrikes against Iran-backed militias and defending against Houthi missiles in the Red Sea. Sunday's disclosure far more prompt than in January, when for days President Biden and other senior officials were unaware that Austin was hospitalized or the reason.
We did not handle this right, and I did not handle this right. I should have told the president about my cancer diagnosis. I should have also told my team and the American public.
Austin insisted there had been no lapse in readiness while he was hospitalized.
At every moment, either I or the deputy secretary was in full charge.
But the optics were disastrous.
This certainly gave an opening to the president's critics, because if you remember, one of the things the president ran on was that he would restore stability, that he would have a very orderly administration, there really would be no drama or chaos.
Former Ambassador Kurt Volker worries about America's adversaries sensing weakness at the top.
The number one that I view this way is Vladimir Putin, because Putin is a former KGB officer. He thinks in personal terms. He thinks in terms of personal psychology.
I think it's possible that the facts alleged by the defendant could result in disqualification. I think an evidentiary hearing must occur to establish the record on those core allegations.
Judge Scott McAfee making clear he's taking seriously the allegations against Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis.
The state has admitted a relationship existed, and so what remains to be proven is the existence and extent of any financial benefit. Again, if there even was one.
Now the stage is set, and Willis may have to take the stand in her own defense during a hearing set for Thursday. The DA's office is working to get the election racketeering case against Donald Trump and his allies back on track for a desired August trial start date. Instead, they are now preparing to answer questions about whether or not Willis financially benefited from hiring the prosecutor she handpicked to take on Trump, Nathan Wade.
The defense is not bringing you facts. The defense is not bringing you law. The defense is bringing you gossip. And the state cannot, and the court should not, condone that practice.
It's been over a month since the explosive allegation surfaced of Wade using money earned on the case to take Willis on lavish vacations.
So just from the hearsay affidavits.
In court Monday, Ashley Merchant, the defense lawyer who accused Willis of a conflict of interest, now says she plans to call a witness who will prove Willis and Wade are lying about when their relationship began.
The relevant information that Mr. Bradley has to this inquiry is that this relationship started prior to Mr. Wade being appointed as a special prosecutor in this case.
Bradley, the one-time friend, colleague, and divorce attorney of Nathan Wade, appears to be Merchant's star witness. Merchant, who represents Trump co-defendant Mike Roman, signaled she had financial evidence to prove wrongdoing, but didn't offer any specifics in court on Monday.
It's Mr. Roman that has tried to create a circus.
Charlie Bailey, a close friend of Willis and political ally, says Willis has never backed down from a fight and has no plans to recuse herself.
She's pretty tough. And it's not the worst thing she's been through in the context of this case or in in her life.
So far, Roman's motion to have Willis thrown off the RICO case has been adopted by 6 co-defendants, including Trump. A scenario where Willis is disqualified would be a nightmare for the DA, but wouldn't necessarily mean an immediate end of the case, according to Pete Skandalakis. He's the one who would be responsible for finding and appointing a new prosecutor if Willis is removed.
It is an historic indictment. It's a historic event. And you have to find somebody with the resources and experience that is capable of handling this type of case.